Interviewers, what is the most ridiculous thing you've seen on a resume? I asked someone to fill out an application, since they didn't have a resume. He only had one previous job, and in the space where it asked why he left, he wrote got locked up. We got an application from a man who simply put Mexicans as his reason for leaving former employment. My name is Mike and I'd like a job. Here is my phone number. Thanks. All nicely typed on the first and only line of the page. Most of these sound like people going through UC requirements, and this is the most obvious. Had a resume where every other line was like, use my skills as a blabbler to greater the glory of Christ. Thanks for making half the resume unable to be talked about. The only reason they got an interview in the first place is that whoever was reviewing resumes didn't bother to read them. I once worked at an adult bookstore as the overnight manager. We had to hire one employee, so the boss said since I had to work with him, I got to pick him, which I was immediately grateful for, because the people that are willing to work the graveyard shift at a pea shop are usually weird. Looking through the resumes, it was clear that I couldn't hire any of them to be a real employee. People had all kinds of shady experience, or records or whatnot. One employee stood out though. I'll call him Dwight, and I'll call him that because his resume read like Dwight's from The Office. He listed himself as a shamanistic natural healer by trade, a master of 7 forms of martial arts, a trained hypnotist, a computer hacker, and several other ridiculous things. I called him in for an interview because I had to meet this guy. I had already pretty much decided we were gonna hire him anyway. He arrived to the interview in a 3-piece ill-fitting suit and was one of the strangest guys I've ever worked with, but highly entertaining. My friend used to put petroleum transfer specialist at British Petroleum on his resume. In reality, he pumped gas at an BP gas station. I am an established aerospace engineer with a highly technical resume, but at the end of the certifications I put 3 CSC certified. This stands for 3 cheese stuffed crust certified, as I had to pass a test while a pizza distribution engineer at Pizza Hut. No one has ever asked me about this one item. Love it. This reminds me of my dad who, after working the lines for a power company for more than a decade, was promoted to a desk job within the company. He hated it. Every time he signed a piece of correspondence, he would put his name, company, phone number, etc. and, at the very end, COTA. This stood for Kiss Old Tom's Butt, and no one ever asked him about it. Applied to Harvard University under their education profile. Of course, that was not their actual alma mater. Hey, points for trying though. Nah. Accepted to Harvard. Decided to go to community college. While reviewing resumes that were included for a scholarship application, I happened upon an interesting one. It was a 2-page resume which I was not too happy about. I turned to the second page to find professionally taken karate action shots of the guy. I felt like an butt for laughing so hard at it because it was a completely serious application, but then that made me laugh harder. I interviewed a 24-year-old last week who had his previous job experience listed as Assistant Vice President Citibank. Turns out he interned for a semester at Citibank. Why he didn't think I would not figure out that a 24-year-old is not a vice president of one of the largest firms in the world baffles me, even though Citi is way too liberal with their titles. Maybe he meant assistant to the vice president. At the bottom under an interests hobbies type heading, collects dragon eggs. The first novel came out in 1996, so that's not all that far off. I once got a resume that had been photocopied crooked, and then the top line said, I am seeking a job at Jugo Juice Stitches, crossed out, in pencil. For a motivation letter to participate in an extra course of astronomy during high school I opened with, I am very interested in astronomy, as I live on a planet myself. I was accepted. Lucky, I've always wanted to live on one of those. Not exactly what you're looking for, but I'm a producer and have read a lot of acting resumes. If you list dinosaur noises as a skill, I am going to make you demonstrate in your audition. I was at an interview, about 10 years ago, and the interviewer complimented my resume, and told me about another resume they'd seen lately, that had a previous position listed as a goofer. He assumed it was meant to be gopher, but since they spelled it wrong, he didn't interview them. I told him I would have, just to see what a goofer is. Dunno why, but I didn't get that job. You convinced him to interview the goofer, who got the job instead of you. A friend of mine, we'll call him Trollbert, is an expert in a particular type of enterprise software implementation. Fairly technical stuff, and extremely specific experience required if you want a shot at one of the high-paying positions in the field. Trollbert was asked to interview candidates for a position at a consulting company. He didn't work for the consulting company, but was collaborating with them on a huge job. While going through candidate resumes, he found his resume. Some guy had found one of Trollbert's old resumes from monster.com or some other job site from around 2 years before, had copied it verbatim, and put his name on the top. A few hours later, Trollbert, who is a natural troll and loves freaking with people, sat down and started to interview the guy. He asked all sorts of extremely specific questions about the projects listed on the resume, making references to other people who worked on those projects and generally leading the guy along. After interviewing him for almost 45 minutes, Trollbert finally told the guy that he was busted, and that not only was he not going to get the job, but all the people this guy said he had been working with were going to be notified, so they would know that someone was fraudulently claiming to have worked with them. The guy being interviewed was from India, and rather than admit he had fricked up, accused Trollbert of being racist and anti-Indian. Trollbert may be many things, but racist and anti-Indian are not on the list. Unfortunately for the resume thief, petty and vindictive are. Trollbert literally spent an afternoon calling dozens of HR people and people in the industry, making sure to blacklist this guy everywhere possible. Worst part of it for the resume thief, Trollbert did later admit that the guy clearly knew his stuff, and probably would have been pretty good. I know someone who had a resume that proudly stated they were a badger at Publix, because they couldn't spell bagger. He didn't get many callbacks. I thought he was the guy wearing a badger costume at Publix. An acquaintance of mine lists his karate skills on his resume for editing positions. He's been working minimum wage since graduating college. And here I thought that would show that he was as swift as the coursing river, with all the force of the great typhoon, had the strength of the raging fire, etc., etc. An astrophysicist I know included can use a shovel on her resume when applying to research positions. She got her first pick. Shovel. Pick. I see what you did there. I was interviewing prospective servers for a restaurant. One young man turned in a resume written entirely in text speak. That is, works parents best be ag boy in his house at the key food. I told him the job required he be able to write in English. He took the resume back from me and left. Used to be a manager of a retail games chain, and you would be surprised at how many people actually put down their gaming achievements on their resume. The one time it worked in the applicant's favor was when a particular candidate listed obviously fabricated and or absurdly difficult gaming achievements, though it could have only been written by a gamer, which made me laugh and got them to the interview stage. On a resume applying for a help desk position, USMC sniper, 2 tours in Iraq, 23 confirmed kills. To be fair, I did consider hiring him and stationing him on the roof. There were a number of technical problems he could have solved from up there. I've been involved in numerous secret raids on Al-Qaeda, and I have over 300 confirmed kills. I am trained in guerrilla warfare and I'm the top sniper in the entire US Armed Forces. A 21-year just out of college once sent me a 9-page resume for an entry-level programming job. 9 freaking pages. I'm a good work guy is all that I would have needed at that level. I'm a good work guy is all that I would have needed at that level. Would be nice if that was still true in this job market. I manage a coffee shop, and females constantly put glamour shots in the resume. I even had one middle-aged woman include a full-length picture of herself in an evening gown. It was weird. Under reason for applying with us. My parents are rich, and I thought I could live for free off them for a few more years. Turns out I was wrong. Now I need to get a job and move out. I'm lazy though. Hey, points for honesty. A friend that works at a large financial firm told me a client wanted to get his daughter a position internship. The resume was like 2-3 pages of BS since her dad was so well off that she didn't have to work a day in her life. The best part, the last page was a list of countries she visited throughout her life. Of course, she ends up getting an internship. Ugh, that really pisses me off. Not an interviewer, but I worked in a copy shop for a short while, and whilst there, a guy asked for 30-ish copies of his resume. I took a sneak peek but couldn't really read it through as the customer stayed whilst I copied it. It was approximately 5 lines long and I could make out the words "my favorite color is Blake." No job history or education was written down, but he felt the need to let potential employers know his misspelled favorite color. As an etymology dork, I can tell you that a few hundred years ago that could have meant either black or white. It's of Old English origin, and may originally have been a nickname for someone who was either very dark or very light of hair complexion. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? If yes, please explain. Answer: yes, arson, but he deserved it. We'll discuss in interview. Please tell me he got an interview. I do a lot of freelance resume writing, mainly for software engineers, others in the IT sectors, and friends of friends of friends. Good at it too. Most recent achievement got a tech lead from tech lead onto the board of directors. My main problem has been that what people were taught to do, and what one really needs to do, are often diametrically opposed. I've seen references included for every job the person had for over a 20-year period, plus 3 personal references, plus 2 college profs. I've seen the paragraphs, not bullets. I've seen the listing of everything one has ever done. Here's some things that some of you might not know but are useful. 1. Blurb. After your name, which is sent in a line following the address, phone, email, and before the skills and abilities sections. This replaces the career objective. It's a couple of sentences wrapping up your characteristics as a worker. If you're a hard worker, put it there. Mine says things like innovative and 20+ years in technical communications. 2. Skills and abilities. Here's where you list all the sorts of things that the keyword search wants. What languages do you have? What environments? What SDM? That crap. Organize it. 3. Work experience. You only need the last 7 years, but can give more if it actually fits the sort of work you are applying for, especially if it shows a pattern of getting more responsibility. And you don't include duties. You list accomplishments. What did you do that made things better where you were? Figure that stuff out and list it. If you didn't make things better, well, why didn't you? Seriously, work is about doing more than merely the basic duties. 4. Education and certifications training. Big debates here, but most still put it before work experience. Seriously, though, if you've been out of school training for over a decade, I would have it go afterward. 5. Other stuff. Don't include this sort of thing just to include it. But, if you really have stuff that is directly relevant to the job, but was not paid work, then create this section to list it. If you have enough of these sorts of things, it's okay to add a joke item at the end, if you are absolutely sure the joke demonstrates your skills. Otherwise, don't waste time with a joke item that could backfire on you. Other than a bit of small print about being willing to relocate, if you are, or travel, if you would, you're done. Stop. Don't be tempted to add. The goal really is to get out in under 2 pages, and without using font that's less than 10. I've seen more than a few resumes, and the one that sticks out the most is a guy who applied to a consulting company I was working for at the time. He listed under skills advanced knowledge of all sorts of things, including FTP and Chmod. For months afterward we joked about making sure every candidate was at a higher level of skill with Chmod. Bonus story. Most interesting resume I ever read was a twin resume. 2 sisters applied to a sandwich store I once worked at. They were twins, and their resumes were almost identical. They had the same format, and nearly the same work experience, except for one 3-month stint where one twin worked at a grocer and the other at a newsagent, in the same shopping center. I saw them a few years later in the newspaper. They had graduated from university together with nursing degrees and had gotten a job working together in the same ward of a hospital. Spelling bee winner listed under accomplishments activities. The ironic part, the objective part of the resume started to obtain a challenging position. All seriousness, Italian cuisine logistics engineer. He was a pizza delivery guy. I called him just because he stuck out and was creative. Turned out not to be a fit but got him noticed. I swear I received a resume where the guy bragged that his previous boss always told him that he did a half-fast job. He took this to mean that he struck a good balance between speed and quality. If you don't get it, say half-fast out loud. One guy summarized every position with a one-line summary. That sounded like a movie trailer. The one we laugh about to this day is a code-slinging cowboy venturing alone into the wild west of Java. The sad thing is his qualifications were really good, but he was just too weird. We did interview him. Fake name. Dude called 10 minutes after we got his resume and admitted his name on his resume was fake. Said he didn't want his current employers to find his resume out there and to fire him. This huge woman came in who was barely literate and had my boss read all the questions on the application for her. Under high school education, she just wrote either rock or rocked, which could have been ROTC and she messed it up, but I doubt it. She did not get the job, but her story became legendary. We called her Rock Monster. She's from the school of slinging rocks. In my state's voter pamphlet, one of the candidates in the primary listed electro-goth and rap recording artist in his relevant professional experience section to be the governor. I worked for a company that did VXML development. Someone typoed WXML as a desired skill for a few open job positions on our website. This was like 2001 and there was definitely no such thing. We started getting tons of resumes of people who had 5 years of WXML experience. The guy who designed JavaScript, Brendan Ake, is a friend of a friend. He once told a story about how a few years after JavaScript was released he interviewed someone who claimed 5 years of JavaScript experience. He said he had a lot of fun watching the guy squirm when he asked him to detail how he was programming in it before it was invented. In high school my friend's mom was telling him he had to apply for jobs, so he applied to McDonald's as a joke. He put Grimace as his desired position. He got hired, not to be Grimace unfortunately. As a former McDonald's employee, I can attest they will take anyone. I always include some photos of me performing karate techniques on the second page of my resume. Should I stop doing this? They are professionally taken shots BTW. I genuinely don't know if that is a joke or not, considering other people were saying on this thread that putting WoW achievements on your CV is okay. I got this. I spoke with a girl and got her resume at a college job fair. She was pretty good, seemed totally legit. I later read her resume, seemed good. On the upper left hand corner there was a small picture of the girl. I've seen that before. It's not a terrible way to remind a reviewer who they spoke to at the fair, except this picture was of a girl on a college bunk bed in shirt and umbrus, eating a sandwich. On a resume, we begged our HR to let us bring her in. We were fascinated. This girl seemed totally normal in person. To the girl, if you're on Reddit, please tell me if this was a joke. I look forward to an interview with you so that I can begin my program of terraforming Mars with high intensity light. Not so much one thing, but I once got a resume that was 22 pages. It was using some crazy template and had huge print. I read the first page or two and got bored. Since you're reviewing resumes, what kinds of minor things do you find to be positive and what kinds do you find to be negative? Statistics. Anything on your resume that you can quantify, do it. They are quick, easy to read, and often make you look much more business-minded. Example from my resume: consistently maintained top customer rewards enrollment for the store. Became consistently produced 80% customer rewards enrollment, 25% above the store average. Bam. Instantly more appealing. I got a handwritten resume on binder paper which just had bullet points with buzzwords such as reliable, courageous and quick. The only reference was from a petrol station in India. I'm Australian, and he wrote that it was his dream to work for Safeway Liquor, a supermarket chain. I worked for the liquor department. He was however a student at the university, so I don't know why he'd bother when you don't need a real education to work for your dream job. Also, not that it matters, but his handwriting was crap house. I wish I kept that resume as it seems unbelievable. Instead we had it behind the counter for staff to see. Then someone smarter than me must have stolen it to show it to their friends, I guess. I wonder if I should continue to put have current concealed weapon permit on my resume. My reasoning is that it is a heck of a lot harder to get a concealed permit than pass a job background check. You should not. They sound like a Redditor. Don't do it. It's a trap. Speaking from experience, I'm working as we speak. He will have decreased productivity because, you know, Reddit. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.